Without this man, you wouldn't know who the boss is. Without this man, the events of Saints Row would never have happened. Without this man, the 3rd Street Saints would have never existed. Matt Miller? Nah. Cyrus Temple? Nah. Zemos? No. Who am I speaking of, you may ask? Today, I'll be bringing you a special treat. The history of Julius Little.
Beings without me.
We didn't even get to meet him, Jules.
And don't call me Jules, you haven't earned it.
Fine. Julius, you put me in charge of the Los Carnales. Shit, now you got me saying it.
Jax, do your job. Don't think you're bigger than you are. When it comes to the Colombians, you call me. Understand?
Yeah.
Alright. Now that that's settled.
Julius Little is the founder, the original leader of the 3rd Street Saints. He grew up with his best friend Benjamin King in Sunnyvale Gardens, and dated Ben's sister Angela. They witnessed the neighborhood's demise when Los Carnales came to Stillwater. Benjamin King started to recruit people to stand up against the Carnales and save Sunnyvale Gardens by creating the Vice Kings.
You're gonna sit your black ass down and wait cause I fucking said so.
After some time in the Vice Kings, Julius saw that the gang also started to become a threat to Stillwater's peace and dropped his flags. He then moved to Saints Row. So yes, Julius was a Vice King before he was a Saint. After the birth of the West Side Rollers and resurgence of Los Carnales, Saints Row became a battleground for the 3 gangs and the district fell apart. Julius had thought that the Vice Kings could at least keep order in the city, but when violence hit the row, he began recruiting members for another gang, with the main purpose of ridding Stillwater of all other gangs, the 3rd Street Saints. He believed that he could learn from King's mistakes, and that the Saints would be something that wouldn't get out of control. He later admitted, "I was so fucking naive." Because, well, we all know what kind of chaos the Saints would go on to create. At the beginning of Saints Row, he and Troy save the protagonist from being killed by a member of the Vice Kings, and he recruits the Playa. The Saints then take control of Saints Row, and then go to destroy the 3 other gangs in Stillwater. Julius was the mastermind behind many of the Saints' plans to rid the city of the other gangs.
Every day that bitch gets driven to the construction site in a limo. Then sneaks off to get a freak on with Warren before she goes back home to Tony. While she's busy sucking cock, you deal with the chauffeur and take his place. When she's done wiping her mouth, she'll have you drive her back. Once you're at Tony's, it's all up to you.
Please bring John.
Throughout the story, Julius demonstrates integrity for his gang and others. This is especially prevalent when later in the story Ben King gets ambushed by his own gang and they try and kill him. Julius then makes sure the Playa goes to help him out in order to save his old best friend. He puts aside their obvious gang-related differences in order to help Ben. Once Ben is saved, he and Julius have a discussion about how Ben needs to accept the fact that the Vice Kings are finished.
We kill Tanya, and I get back to business.
I don't think so, Benjamin.
What?
I said no. You alive, we straight. But the Vice Kings, they're through.
Then kill me. Quit wasting my goddamn time.
Well, you got a choice. You can keep your fucking pride and die right now. Or you can be a man and walk away.
When did you get the balls, Jules?
What's it gonna be?
I ain't walking away.
Fair enough. Johnny?
I ain't walking away until I deal with Tanya.
My nigga.
When Stillwater comes into Saints' control, Julius names the protagonist his right-hand man. However, Julius is quickly arrested by Troy, who was an undercover cop, and Police Chief Monroe forces the Saints to kill Marshal Winslow for him, or else he will kill Julius. The protagonist kills Marshal Winslow, but Monroe orders the Saints to do even more. Eventually, the Saints kill Monroe. In the final act of the game, Troy calls Julius, telling him that he does not want to arrest his friends. He asks Julius to convince Johnny Gat and the protagonist to drop their flags. Julius, knowing that the protagonist wouldn't stop, plants a bomb on Alderman Hugh's private yacht, with hopes that the bomb will kill the protagonist, therefore disbanding the Saints.
The fuck was that?
It was the only way.
I said talk, not set off a goddamn bomb.
Relax, Troy. The Saints are finished. Don't try to find me.
Turns out, the Saints weren't finished, and Julius had just made the worst mistake of his life by crossing the protagonist. Although Julius isn't mentioned too much in SR2, we do get a hidden mission that concludes the story between the rivalry between the boss and Julius. Dex calls you and asks you to meet up with him so you can get revenge on Julius, but in reality it was just an elaborate setup to try and kill the boss and Julius. You and Julius end up fighting side by side once again, kind of like old times, defending each other from the attacking Masako units. This culminates into a shootout that lasts for a bit and ends up at the museum. And what happens at the museum? Well, you just have to see for yourself.
You owe me, Playa. If it wasn't for me, you would have died on that street corner.
If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been in a goddamn coma.
I guess that makes us even.
Not really.
Some may think that that's where the story with Julius Little ends, but it actually doesn't. Well, not technically, because he is brought into light in Saints Row 4. Julius is made available as a target for security deletion in Virtual Steelport. Once he is killed, he becomes your homie. It's now time for your favorite part. It's time. It's time for your fun facts. Julius Little originally wanted the 3rd Street Saints color to be green. The Saints Row 2 version of Julius is very different than the original from Saints Row. He looks much older and seems to have seen some better days. His eyes are also purple, signifying that Julius may have been using drugs to assuage his guilt. Julius's involvement in the conspiracy against the protagonist was not actually in the script. In the final cutscene of the game, Julius was supposed to be shown running injured through an alley, but since the animators were missing this animation, they chose not to call the motion capturing team for one specific session, and instead opted to recycle the animation of Aisha looking at her watch, despite Julius not wearing one. The events of Saints Row 2 are based on the final cutscene instead of the original script.
Egregious error.
So yeah, on Saints Row,
Huge.
So Saints Row 1 ends with this. It was supposed to be this cliffhanger ending of you know, the bomb blows up and the player is caught in this explosion and everyone to find who set the bomb, who set the bomb. And I remember I finally watched the cutscene when it came back. I was always excited to see, ooh, what does this cutscene look like? And I watched the ending cinematic of the game, and it's like everyone is like cutting away to this boat, and you're kind of people like looking at classifying who's, you know, like who could be the person, who could be the person. And then there's this one shot where it's Julius standing looking at his watch and looking at the boat, like what the fuck is this? Like, I'm like, oh my god, like what happened? And be like, what do you mean? Like in the script it says that he's running down an alleyway, broken and bloody, like he just escaped capture and he's running for his life. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, he's supposed to be like scared. Like what happened?
Well, now you know the story of Julius Little from top to bottom. I know this was a highly requested history, so let me know who you'd like to see next in the series. I'm open for absolutely anyone and anything. Other than that, this has been your daddy RPG. Signing out, bitch.
Subscribe.
It ain't gonna be settled until the Canales, the Rollers, and the Vice Kings ain't nothing but a memory. Dex, you got the Canales. Ever since they hooked up with the Colombians, it's like they own this town. And with that drug money rolling in,